Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, today we're talking about how much money you put into funding your own pension as a FERS federal employee, and to talk through the numbers of, okay, how much do you put into the system? How much do you get out of the system? Is it worth it? Is it worth it to put all these years with the federal government to get a pension? Is it worth it based on what you're putting in? So that's what we're going to dive into today. If you're new here, so good to have you. My name is Dallin Haas. I'm a financial planner who serves federal employees every single day to help you guys get the most out of your benefits, retire confident, and really to have the best life you possibly can. So for those that don't know, you actually, every single paycheck, you put a piece of your pay into the FERS pension system, okay? Again, I'm not talking about the TSP right now. This is another thing that comes out of your paycheck to fund your pension one day, okay? For those that were hired, if you're just a traditional FERS employee, for those that were hired before 2013, you put in 0.8% of your salary. So less than 1% of your salary, you pay into the FERS system to fund your pension one day. Now, if you were hired in 2013, you actually put in 3.1%, so much, much higher, right? More than 3 times as much. However, it's still 3%, not a huge amount of your pay. If you're hired after 2014, you put in 4.4%. So again, a big chunk more, okay? Now, if you were special provisions federal employee, you actually put more of your pay into the system because your pension is more generous down the road. So for those special provision federal employees that were hired before 2013, you put in 1.3%. For those that are hired in 2013, 3.6%, and those after 2014, 4.9% is how much of your pay, again, you put into the system, okay? So basically, it doesn't matter what federal employee you are, you put somewhere between 0.8% and 5% of your salary into the FERS pension system so that one day you can have a pension, right? So the real question is it worth it? Well, we have to know, to answer that question, does the government chip in anything into this to fund your pension one day? And the answer is yes. Your agency actually funds a major part of it. Basically, depending on what type of federal employee you are, your agency is going to put anywhere from 9% to 24% of your salary into the FERS pension system every single paycheck as well for you. So you put a small part and they put a much larger part of your pay into the system to fund your pension one day. So first and foremost, again, you're putting a small part of it in, but your agency is chipping in a much larger amount. So just on that, it's probably worth it, but let's go through some numbers to show you what this might look like, okay? So I know many of you that are close to retiring, you were hired before 2013, okay? So you're probably putting, if you're a traditional FERS employee, 0.8% of your salary into the FERS pension system. Let's do some math. Let's take a very simplified example. Let's say you work 30 years for the government, and let's say your salary is $100K the entire time. Obviously, that doesn't happen. Salaries change and go up over time. However, let's just use this simple example. Let's say $100K for 30 years. That means, basically, if we just do the math, let's take 0.8% of that, right? It comes out to you'd put in about $24,000 into the FERS pension over the entire 30 years. You'd put about $24,000. However, you know, if you have 30 years and you have made $100,000 over your course of your career, then your pension in retirement is going to be about $30,000 a year. Okay, you can check out my other videos on how to calculate your pension if you didn't follow that. But long story short, you'd get about $30,000 a year from your pension for the rest of your life once you retire, and you only had to put in $24,000 over the course of your entire career. So just based on that, you put in $24,000 over the course of your entire career, and you get $30,000 out every year, plus cost of living adjustments for the rest of your life. So just doing the rough math, it's like, wow, you put in a small amount and you get a large amount later. And the real sacrifice is the time you put in with the federal government. You have to put a lot of time in working for the federal government. So that is the true cost of it. But hopefully you enjoy what you're doing, at least to some degree. And so it all becomes worth it. So I hope that is helpful to give you a sense for how much you're putting into the FERS pension system, to say, hey, does this make sense for you? Does this make sense for me? And at the end of the day, for many of you, it does. It does, right? Now, where it gets a little hairier and maybe not as clear is if you could go take a private position where they pay you so much more. That may be something to look at. But the pension is really hard to beat. To have guaranteed income for the rest of your life with cost of living adjustments, a pension is so rare to find these days because it's expensive to fund. It just is. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, comments below, put in the comments below. That'd be wonderful. I hope that's helpful. Have an incredible rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time.